In March 2017, inside a Cambridge lecture hall, the lights dimmed. A hush fell over the room as Stephen Hawking was rolled onto the stage, his wheelchair humming softly. The only sound was the faint click of his speech synthesizer. Students leaned forward, sensing this was going to be a normal lecture about black holes or the birth of the universe. He was here with a warning, a scientific forecast he believed humanity could no longer ignore, and what he revealed that day shook everyone listening. So what did he predict? For decades, Hawking studied the immense forces that shape our cosmos: gravity, entropy, cosmic origins. But by the 2010s, his focus had shifted dramatically. He argued that humanity was facing threats not from the distant stars, but from our own creations. To understand the gravity of his predictions, we need to go back to the places where he formed them. The historic halls of Cambridge, the labs of the Center for Theoretical Cosmology, and global science conferences, where he began speaking with a surprising urgency. Hawking wasn't driven by fear, he was driven by data. He saw climate models showing rapid temperature spikes. He saw genetic engineering tools, like CRISPR, becoming widely accessible. He saw machine learning systems outperforming humans in logic, pattern recognition, and decision-making. And he saw population curves rising faster than Earth's resources could sustain. During a BBC lecture in 2016, Hawking said something chilling. "We are at the most dangerous moment in the development of humanity." He rarely used such absolute language. When he did, scientists paid attention. His predictions weren't science fiction, they were trend lines backed by peer-reviewed studies and emerging technologies. And with each passing year, his tone grew more urgent. So what was the first danger he believed could reshape, or even erase human civilization? It all started with a warning in 2014. Hawking publicly stated that full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. To him, the threat wasn't about evil robots or Hollywood villains. It was a matter of scale. He was talking about algorithms capable of self-learning, evolving far faster than our biological brains ever could. He watched real-world breakthroughs unfold. Google DeepMind's AlphaGo defeated the world's best Go players. Early reinforcement learning systems taught themselves strategies that humans had never even imagined. Neural networks were refining their abilities with zero human guidance. Hawking recognized a pattern. Each milestone was happening years, sometimes decades, earlier than experts had predicted. The danger wasn't that AI would suddenly wake up and become conscious. The danger was optimization, machines relentlessly improving toward goals we might not fully control or understand. In Hawking's view, once AI surpasses human intelligence, it could redesign itself at digital speeds. Humans, limited by the slow pace of biological evolution, simply couldn't compete. He compared our situation to early life on Earth: single-celled organisms that were completely unable to comprehend the complex beings they would eventually give rise to. Now, we could be the simple organisms, unable to comprehend what comes next. Hawking wasn't anti-AI, he fully supported its development, for good. But he insisted that humanity must regulate it, align it with our values, and design safety mechanisms long before these systems reach superhuman levels. And just as he issued this stark warning, another threat was rising, one not digital, but planetary. Hawking believed every discovery carries a shadow. If his warnings are gripping you, keep watching, because his next predictions weren't theories. They were tied to real measurements, real heat, and real consequences unfolding right now across our planet. Between 2015 and 2017, Hawking repeatedly warned that Earth was approaching a climate threshold it could not reverse. This wasn't hyperbole, it was anchored in hard data. He pointed to global temperature records, atmospheric readings from the Mauna Loa Observatory, and NASA satellite data showing polar ice loss at unprecedented rates. He often cited the real-world example of Venus. Scientists believe Venus once had liquid water, but the runaway greenhouse effect transformed it into a 900-degree furnace. Hawking argued that humanity, through industrial emissions, was accelerating toward a similar trajectory, not necessarily in temperature, but in creating irreversible feedback loops. Sea levels are rising faster than 20th century averages. Heat waves are breaking historical records almost every year. Ocean acidification is pushing marine life toward collapse. These were the data points that shaped Hawking's urgency. What terrified him most wasn't just the environment changing, it was humanity's utter unpreparedness. Entire megacities are built on coastlines. Our global food networks depend on stable seasons. Our power grids are aging and fragile. vulnerable to floods and storms. Hawking warned that if climate science continued to be ignored, Earth could become hostile to human life within just a few centuries, forcing future generations to seek survival elsewhere. But climate wasn't his only existential concern. Another danger, he believed, lay hidden within our own genetic code. In 2018, shortly before his death, Hawking wrote a stark chapter in his final book, Brief Answers to the Big Questions. He warned that genetic engineering, especially technologies like CRISPR, could divide humanity into two distinct classes: the naturally born and the genetically enhanced. This wasn't fiction. CRISPR had already been used to modify human embryos in labs. Scientists had demonstrated precise edits to DNA sequences responsible for inherited diseases. The technology was moving from theoretical to practical with astonishing speed. Hawking didn't fear the science itself, but the societal consequences. He envisioned a future where wealthy families could enhance intelligence, memory, disease resistance, or even physical ability in their children. Over generations, these genetically improved lineages could drift so far from the natural human baseline that they would essentially become a new, separate species. This would create a biological inequality written directly into our DNA. He believed this would trigger new forms of discrimination, conflict, and moral debates that the world was completely unprepared to handle. And as if engineered humans weren't enough, Hawking believed another force from beyond Earth could also threaten our existence, a cosmic danger older than humanity itself. For decades, Hawking supported the scientific search for extraterrestrial life. But he deeply feared what an advanced civilization might do if it found us first. His reasoning was grounded in history. Every single time a technologically superior civilization encountered a weaker one here on Earth, the weaker side suffered through disease, displacement, or total collapse. Hawking often referenced the rearward example of Europeans arriving in the Americas. The cultural shock was devastating for native populations. He warned that broadcasting our presence into space without understanding who or what might be listening was incredibly dangerous. Using data from NASA's Kepler mission, astronomers now estimate there are billions of potentially habitable planets in our galaxy alone. That means intelligent life, some of it far older and more advanced than us, is statistically plausible. But if such a civilization reached Earth, Hawking argued, their technology would be centuries, or even millennia, ahead of ours. Our best defense systems would be meaningless. Even a peaceful contact could destabilize our global economies, religions, and political structures overnight. His warning wasn't fear-mongering. It was a sober risk analysis based on real historical parallels and astronomical data. These predictions left many unsettled, but none of them compared to Hawking's final, overarching message about humanity's future. In his final years, he repeated one message more than any other: humanity must eventually leave Earth, not to abandon it, but to diversify our chances of survival. He based this conclusion on hard scientific facts: the probability of asteroid impacts, the cycles of supervolcanoes, the risks of global pandemics, climate change, and technological accidents. Each one, he argued, has a low yearly probability, but a guaranteed long-term certainty. Earth, in his view, was a single point of failure. He strongly supported NASA's exoplanet missions, SpaceX's ambitions for Mars, and proposals for international lunar bases. He believed the first human settlements beyond Earth could appear within the next century, if our technological progress continues. Hawking wasn't urging us to panic, he was urging us to prepare. Just as early humans migrated across continents to survive climate shifts, modern humans, he believed, might one day need to migrate across planets. His vision wasn't apocalyptic. It was practical, scientific, and rooted in the fundamental idea that life must adapt or perish. Hawking didn't claim to know exactly how the future would unfold, but he believed humanity's greatest danger was ignoring the data that is staring us right in the face. So what do you think about Stephen Hawking's predictions? Are these warnings we're already beginning to see come true? AI breakthroughs, climate extremes, genetic engineering. Are we prepared for what comes next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which prediction feels closest? Which feels most distant? And what future should humanity prioritize first? If you want more real stories where science feels stranger and maybe even scarier than fiction, let me know what you want to explore next. maybe we can dive into the search for alien megastructures. Or the day Earth almost ended without anyone even noticing. Thanks for watching.